I am Patrick McGoopin, John Drake. But you also know me as Number 6. Who was I, really? I represented you, the private citizen. It was symbolism of the socialist world order we see today. You didn't get it, did you? Now we all are facing this reality, that all are controlled by the New World Order.
Volkswagen, das Auto.
We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
Poor cashier, she didn't make it. You see, he burned a bad boy real bad. I think he's still alive. And I think there's a little boy that died because I saw his body laying there. I don't know if he was alive, dead or not, but he wasn't moving. But he hurt a lot of innocent people.
Oh, wait a minute now. You're definitely from the planet Mongo or something. Tell me why.
Well, I have a schizophrenic daughter.
Uh-huh.
And she's not an animal. Okay, number one. She is a human being. At one time, she was very, very sick. I had her down to 30th Street Mental Health, and they sent her home, saying they thought I was the patient. We left there with the police. We took her to another place. They accepted her in. She was taken sick when she was 14. She's now 24 and goes to daycare every day. And it's taken all these years to get her to that point.
And she's still undergoing care on a regular basis, you say?
Yes, sir, and on very heavy medication.
Uh-huh.
She thinks she's a millionaire. She regularly calls up all the banks in Florida and wants to know where her money is. Okay?
Uh-huh.
But she could have other delusions, too.
Uh-huh.
She could have other delusions that we're being killed by the communists.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
I think it's a very, very good point. What would you say to 100% of the callers who have called up today and screamed death?
I think, one, we live in the dark ages as far as mental illness is concerned. Even an epileptic finds it hard to get a job and to get insurance in this country.
Do you think that the American system of government has every right to be violently indignant? In other words, to be emotional about this
No,
and pull
I do
the
not.
switch?
No.
Why?
I don't think a judge should ever rule on emotions. I think it should be strictly by the facts. And the facts were this was a normal, everyday boy who had he was in the service, I believe. He came out of the service. He had an accident. He fell. Now, we know that if you shake a child too hard, you injure his brain. We do know that as a fact.
Mm-hmm.
This man fell. And after that, his family did try to get him help. And the system turned the man and the family down. And I've been over there where they went, and I know what they're like over there. He was turned down. We laugh at schizophrenic bag ladies out on the street. We think they're funny. The government laughs at them because they don't have to pay them any money. They don't have to take care of them. So let them stay out on the street. Who cares? The government, the officials do not care. They'd rather lose the vote than have to take care of this mentally ill person.
All right. Why do you think that most people would tend to agree with this entity that you refer to as the government? Why are we being inundated with calls today saying kill?
Because they're, again, going on the emotions and not really looking at the true facts of what really happened.
All right, you've obviously studied this case pretty closely, and you obviously could identify in large part with it. How do you feel about Judge Menendez's decision? Was it emotional or no?
I think it was emotional. I think he was swayed by the letters that he received, whether he said he was or not.
I don't know if he was swayed, but I have to believe they had some effect.
Yes. You would have to. If you sat down and read those letters, I'm sure you would have to have some emotional turmoil about it.
Roby, how do you feel about Judge Menendez's quote that the facts calling for death were, quote, so clear and convincing that virtually no reasonable person could differ?
Well, you had Dr. Alvarez, and I call him a very reasonable person. He was on, and he quoted that this man was definitely schizophrenic and not responsible for his actions. And I consider myself reasonable, and I don't think the man should be held responsible. You know, Chattahoochee is a jail strictly for mentally deranged people.
How do you answer people who say that if they're criminally insane and took lives, why should we pay taxes to keep them alive? Let's wipe them out. What do you say to them?
I say that someday he may be of help to society because this was a very intelligent person before he had his accident, and someday he may be helped through medication. He may be.
Doesn't that raise the specter that if he's helped through medication, he could someday be released and could kill again?
Well, my daughter turned on me and beat me up one day.
Oh, my.
Yeah. And we had to call the police, and we put her in the hospital for a little while, and they changed her medication, and she's been out of the hospitals now for over 2 years. That's the first time in over 10 years that she's been out of the hospital this long.
Roby, I could do a whole show with you. It's not really fair to other people, but
I know it's not, but I would just like for them
No. Everything you've done is fair. Fair is fine so far. I just want to ask you this. Without naming names, you were talking about those people who deal with paranoid schizophrenics or schizophrenics. What did you mean by that? What is there about those people that is not the way it should be?
Well, the night that I went with Shar down to 30th Street, we sat for 5-6 hours talking to him. And the man was sitting there lecturing Charlene about how she should be a good girl. A lot of the workers themselves don't really realize what's going on with the patients. And they take it kind of as, it's just like getting a drink of water. Okay, here comes another nut. It will keep this one. No, we won't keep this one. We haven't got a bed tonight, so we'll send this one back out on the street. And that's what it comes down to.
Does it come back to what you originally said, that people don't understand mental illness, as far as when you said they start lecturing her to be a good girl? Do you think that society looks at Billy Ferry and says, you've been a bad boy, so we're going to kill you? And suddenly they haven't really dealt with the problem that they're not dealing with someone normal.
That's right. That's right. And society doesn't even like to look at people that aren't normal.
Roby, I've registered your opinion, and I must tell you, so far you're the only person who has called this program who is for keeping him alive.
I'm sure if you get hold of the other parents in the area that have schizophrenic children, that they would register with on my side.
I very much thank you for the call, Roby. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty, bye-bye.
The worst cases were rushed to Tampa General Hospital. 6 victims, mainly bag boys and checkout clerks. At least one so badly burned she was not expected to survive.
What's their condition from what you're able to see?
Well, there's third-degree burns all over their body, all over.
Bad?
And very bad. I don't even know if some of them are going to make it, you know. It's very bad. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen here, without a doubt.
Burn unit doctors and nurses rushed from their homes to Tampa General's emergency room as ambulances brought in the victims. Ellis Pujo's 16-year-old son had been out of town all week taking tests for college, but he came home today and went straight to Winn-Dixie, where he works as a bag boy.
They just called me home. They told me my son was burned. So I rushed out of the house. I live next door. I saw the ambulance. I thought it was the ambulance. It must be another ambulance coming.
Minutes later, Pujo's worst fears were realized. His son, unconscious and in shock, arrived at Tampa General. His back was covered with third-degree burns. For Ellis Pujo's and the families of the other 5 victims at Tampa General, this will be a long night of waiting and praying and hoping. Joe Collum, Pulse 13, Tampa. Ever since Billy Ferry was arrested 6 days ago, police have been working around the clock, trying to find out more about the man accused of setting fire to a store full of innocent people. Today, they started digging.
A couple members of his family have reason to believe that the girl might possibly be in the area here, and we have 2 holes that were dug by him. Neighbors indicated that they did a lot of the digging at night.
Ferry's common-law wife, Susan Hallowell, fathered his child and lived with him here in a trailer bordering the Ocala National Forest. It was a home that borrowed from the strange and sometimes bizarre lyrics of rock and roll songs. At his doorstep, a signpost announcing Ferry's unsettling view of the world. A self-proclaimed diary of a madman. Ferry's trailer may well have been a makeshift house of horrors, a remote torture chamber of sorts where Susan Hallowell was apparently beaten, cut, stabbed, and smothered.
She come tearing in there and blood running all over her, gashed all up, and he jabbed her in the legs. And, well, then she went on telling me about he tried to kill me like he'd killed the other woman here before her.
Susan Hallowell went to police and finally filed an assault complaint against Ferry, a complaint she later refused to prosecute. She disappeared 8 months later. Since the grocery store firebombing, detectives on the case talked to Ferry's family, who say that once in April of 1980, they came to Marion County and asked where Susan had gone.
When they asked him where Susie was, his statement was, I sent her to glory.
Ferry isn't talking much about that or anything else right now, so deputies continue to slowly sift through buckets of earth, unsure of what they'll find. Mark Gould, Pulse 13, Marion County.
If there was a turning point in Billy Ferry's life, it was the day he sustained a head injury while crewing a Tampa Bay tugboat. His family says Ferry was never right after that, and the facts seem to back them up.
Here of the state that was going to argue the appeal before the Supreme Court. And I have a tape of my conversation with him with reference to the upcoming appeal that he would be presenting to the Supreme Court on our behalf. Not yet, not yet. And then I have the tape because Nava and I, my wife and I, we drove up to Tallahassee when the appeal was presented, argued before the Supreme Court. And but I've got so many of them. But I don't remember if I transposed the tape. I had a cassette tape that I recorded when the president of Winn-Dixie came to our home here.
Well, David said maybe he can help you. Tell him If it's on a big tape or a little tape?
It's on the big tape. Now this is
the Supreme Court thing.
This is an interview with the state attorney's office, Gary, up there, when I went to him about the thing. This is a recording of the Supreme Court hearing, appeal hearing.
Is that the whole hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the whole thing on there?
Mm-hmm.
Could I record that or because those records I'm going to have a real hard time getting a hold of.
They're on a cassette tape.
Well, you know what you might have
No,
done with them?
no. I should not have waited until you got here to do that.
That's all right. There's no problem. I can always come back.
I want to apologize. I will. Yes, I will. I will apologize to you because we're in the process of having a home built up in Greenville, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And my off days, this past 3 days that I was off, I was up there in Georgia. And
Don't make much sense. Can you not plug that in?
let me see if I can find a place over there.
It's very blurry.
Well, we'll get to it. Ain't no big problem.
That's all right. I still got a long ways to go with this. I still got a lot of work to do yet. So.
Thing is, we have...
And the volume checker.
I can't understand it.
You know, it's really heavy.
Okay, both of us were. Okay.
They come
The whole
in,
argument,
supposedly on the road. They look like they hadn't been to sleep all night long. That's only to decide a case of where somebody that has murdered people and what the outcome should be. They wasn't even interested.
The appeal was solely to keep him from being put to death,
That's
wasn't
right.
it?
Well,
it wasn't to declare any form of innocence or guilt. Or
well, well.
Volkswagen, das Auto.
Rated PG-13.
Hi, I'm George Lucas. In my past 40 years of motion picture making, no subject has so inspired me as this story that happened in August 2016. The world saw a 3-year-old boy on global networks, and it really touched my heart. So much so that I had to tell his story. His name is Omran Daknish. His story is real. It happened. I'm telling this story because millions of other children just like Omran are still being hurt in war-torn countries resulting from neglect, illness, and uncaring masses. We must remember them all. You won't be leaving the movie theater without a tear in your eyes. I hope you'll come.
Rated PG-13.
Thank you.